welcome. I've been wanting to do this video for a bit. This is going to take us through the typical setup for a live night on the SQ console. This is applicable for SQ5, SQ6 and SQ7. And let's, for this example, presume that there's going to be one band on stage, a small to medium venue. Let's reset the console and let's get into this. Okay, there's going to be a separate video to look at the connections to the stage box and the routing via the monitor's SQ console to get to the amplifiers. We won't look at that right now, but there'll be a separate video to take you through that. We're going to be now at the point where we've come to front of house. We've got this desk connected to the front of house PA system. We will test it with pink noise though before we go much further. When you walk up to a digital console, I recommend you do one of two things. You either load a show file that you trust, or reset the console back to a factory default, and that factory default wants to be locked behind any ability for another user to change the file. So I'm saying read-only memory, factory reset. On this desk, here's how you do it. You go to setup, then you go to mixer config, then you go to roll, and then you've got two choices. You either go to standard. This little blurb here tells you what that standard setting is. It's saying things like it sets local inputs, it sets local outputs. It's basically the setup for typical front of house mixing. Like all the input faders will be routed to the left and right output by default. That would be what we want for front of house standard. And if there is no scene, if I don't have a scene ready to go that I've already prepared, then I'm going to do this. I'm going to click standard and I'm going to click reset, and then I'm going to click confirm. The thing is, I'm not going to do that right now because I've already done a little bit of setup on this desk. Nothing that you're going to miss out on because you didn't see it as I did it before I rolled the cameras. Purely just I have connected a microphone so I can talk to you into the desk. That's actually what's currently flashing here. So I'm not going to reset the desk. I'm going to just point out that you will need to reset the desk to begin with, or load a previous scene if you've already gotten started and got something saved on this desk. So in the scene menu, there are all these slots. There are 300 slots, and you can pick one of those slots to write into or load from. These are all, at the moment, open access. There's no read-only memory set up on this at the moment. So if you save into here, someone could change your scene or delete it. I'm sure people are not intending to do that, but they're not locked down. What does that mean? Back it up. What you're going to need to do is put your USB in the USB slot on the top right-hand corner of this desk and back your scene up. That's out of shot at the moment. I'll show you that in a little bit. Okay then, so we have reset the desk, or indeed loaded a scene. Back to the scene menu later. We'll get your work saved and we'll get it backed up on a USB pen drive, because of course that is what specifically the assessment brief says you need to do. You need to turn up to the session with a USB pen drive backup of the scene, which for all intents and purposes for now is the whole desk saved, ready to do a balance. There are some things that you can have not included in that scene save, but we'll come on to that in future classes. Right now, we just want to get mixing kind of as soon as possible. So here we go. We've got some decisions to make about group setup, groups/buses. So this mixing console has 12 buses that can be swapped between groups and auxiliaries. Here's where you look at that. You go to setup, mixer config, bus configuration. Here we are. Now, it's 12 buses, so you'll notice these numbers add up to 12. I've chosen 8 stereo groups plus 4 auxiliaries. They're mono auxiliaries. Actually, these groups could be mono or stereo, and it wouldn't affect the total bus count. I.e., I could have 8 stereo groups or 8 mono groups and still get 4 more auxiliaries. For a front of house setup that we've got here, this is going to be fine. Remember, we have in this venue at the moment got a dedicated monitors console, and we're going with that for this example. So I've got someone down on monitors over there, stage left, therefore I don't need so many auxiliaries. I may use some of these auxiliaries to do effect sends. Other than that, it's really about groups for holistic mix control. Controlling selections of instruments, having it routed through a bus to do bus processing on, for example, the drum shells, then, for example, on the metal discs on the drum kit, hi-hat, cymbals. Back to groups as we start setting the desk up in a moment, but actually, before we go any further, I would recommend you do the following thing. You go to Audio, SIG Generator, and create some sound. Get it out the back of the desk, get it to the amplifiers, make sure the PA system is hooked up to this desk. Okay, so to do that, it's switched on left and right. I'm not using matrices to mix out of on this desk, I'm just using standard left-right. And when you first switch this on, fade it up to 0. You want unity gain coming off of the master fader. Then over on the master fader, we are going to make sure that is unmuted, and we're going to gently fade that up, and we're going to observe some signal here on the meters. I've also got some headphones plugged in, and that's really loud in my headphones, so I'm going to turn that down. Okay, so we want 0 coming off the desk, just tickling onto amber. Then we will look at R1. Okay, so now we're taking a look at R1 and realising that we've got some signal present on the ISP lights. That is input signal present. And just as a recap as well, on the desktop of R1, what you want to be doing is double clicking either the flown system called line array or the point source straight from the desktop. And we've got some signal present. Whatever you do, don't unmute that. It'll be tremendously loud. On a serious note, you do that, you're going to damage your ears. So don't do that. What we can do is bring down this oscillator level, still on the screen here, select it, fade down the level, it's touch and turn, fade down the level of the oscillator going to the main left right. The reason we originally kick 0 dB, 0 off the master fader for testing the PA is because it's enough level to definitely trigger these lights on the amplifiers. But then turn it down or it will be way too loud. In your assessment, really do take the time to walk away from front of house, come round the front of the console, walk left a bit, walk right a bit, make sure left sounds so similar to right. This is really important. So many times you'll observe a cable unplugged at the back of the loudspeaker array and it'll sound different on left and right. So make sure you do that in your assessment and indeed in your work. We'll also play a reference track in a moment and we'll wander around the room. Don't get stuck behind the console. Now, the subs are trimmed down by 3 dB. We've had this chat in class about we've got 4 subwoofers, 4 bigger subwoofers than the mid and top loudspeakers in this venue, and therefore it's a little bit heavy at the low end. So you may want to trim the subs down a little bit if they're all plugged in. So at present I've got 4 subwoofers and they're all plugged in. So I've got them trimmed down by 3 dB. Okay, that's the whole system. Now we're going to unmute the whole thing, and then we're going to drop the left leg and then drop the right leg, so we can test that left and right is routed correctly from the desk to the amplifiers. I'll show you what I mean. So now I'm going to unmute the whole PA system. On I/O, I'm going to disconnect the left-hand side of the master fader, and then it should just be audio heard on front of house right PA, and then vice versa. I'll take you through it. I'm unmuting R1, disconnected the left. I'm just on a mono microphone that's stuck to my head, a little lav mic for the presentation, so you won't notice it as obviously as I do. I'm stood behind the front of house desk and I've disconnected the left hand side of the PA system, and all the signal has suddenly swung to the right hand side of the venue. And then do it the opposite way around as well. Disconnect the right, just listen left. Okay, signal's all gone to left. This is the way we make sure that we've got signal correctly routed out of the back of the desk left to left input of the amplifier, and then vice versa for the right. Connect it all back up. Just while we're on this page, we'll point out the following. This is the I/O tab. It's where we route our ins and outs of this console. And the important thing is that we are routing S-Link, well, mix out, master, main, left and right. Left signal goes to 11, and then main, left and right, right goes to output number 12. But it's digital output, that's S-Link output, and that is what that needs to look like. If you're doing if you're using the full Allen and Heath environment, that is SQ6 at front of house, SQ6 at monitors, and AR2412 digital stage box at the side of the stage. Okay, so we're quite a way through our desk setup at this point. We've at least got some audio. Lots more to do though still before we can actually start mixing. And let me tell you, preparation. Live events generally don't take that long to actually happen. So there's loads of time before the live event where people hopefully get a chance to prepare stuff. Admittedly, some of the work that we do in our freelancer careers is quite last minute, but ideally we're going to get a bit of notice, and then compared to the actual length of the event, maybe 90 minutes or whatever, we've got time to prepare and use it, right? You will only get anywhere near professional sounding result if you begin with something pretty solid as a template on one of these digital consoles, I believe at this point in your career at least. When the industry was based around analog consoles, at least everything was on top of the desk and you could see everything all at once. There are settings behind the scene here which we need to get knocked in to the way we want it before we get working. So I really can't overemphasize. If you've just relatively new to live sound and you're going to bring a band into this venue ahead of your assessment, you really need to make sure you have got a show file, in this case we're going to call it a scene, ready to go. And this part of the video is getting you set up to do that. Okay, so we need to get some signals from Pro Tools ultimately. So in this case we're going to use Dante Virtual Sound Card. Of course, if this was a real show, we will be getting signals from stage, so I'll show you both ways. Let's say we are going to get signals from stage because it's a real show. If we're going to do that, then we're going to go to inputs on here, and then we're going to go S-Link, and then we are going to patch down. So input 1 here, which is this fader, would be this. That's stage box input 1, i.e. the mic going into the first channel on the stage box. This is channel 2 of the stage box, channel 3, etc. So we'd stripe down here like that if we wanted signals from stage. We don't. What we want signals from today is the I/O port, which has a Dante card in it. It says there Dante. And we want to do a one-to-one input routing, so off we go. There's no way to sort of slide your finger down and do multiple patch-ins at once, actually. The reason for that is that I believe it would be quite dangerous, potentially, because you could sort of accidentally unpatch yourself in the middle of the show or patch in something that you didn't want to do. I'm just going to do 24 inputs. That'll cover me on this Pro Tools session that I'm using today. So again, if you're coming from the computer, do it by Dante, ideally. This desk does do USB input as well, but we're using Dante for this course. And so that's what that wants to look like. Now, I can label across this desk. I might just do a few before I actually open Pro Tools. And the way to do that is select the channel, go to Processing. Here's our channel strip, top block, select, and then do a name. So what do we want to call it? Well, it's going to be, I'm choosing a session that's a very typical patch. We've got the full plethora of mics going on at a drum kit. It's somewhat over-mic'd for a small or medium venue, but at least, because we're playing it back from Pro Tools, at least we get some choices. So we've got kick in, we got a kick out. And for this part of the video, I think we'll speed it up a little bit, or you might get a bit bored watching me label stuff. But just before we do the fast forward bit, the quickest way to do this is to keep this on screen and to go through and select the channel, keeping this on screen. Just make sure you click apply each time. One more thing. I like to use colours. Now, colours are your decision how you want to colour stuff up. I don't want to get in a debate with you about what colour should be what, but we can customise this, and that's going from ABC to the colour palette, and off I go. Now, to be honest, I'm going to get up to this point, then I'm going to have to look at Pro Tools to remember what are just two symbols. So, more of that channel labelling and colouring fun soon. Before we go any further though, let's actually get some audio onto this console.